This is what happened one time. Photographer was like in New York, hey, can I adjust your underwear real quick? And I was like, sure, go ahead. The dude pulls my underwear to the front, grabs my penis, like he lengthens it, puts it in the middle, pushes it down again, closes the underwear. Like it was a routine move. He's done this before. And I don't think it was purely to adjust the underwear. It was a sexual thing. It was like to please him. The photographers, they just think they can do it because there's this power dynamic at play. You're a young model. You're desperate. You're broke. A lot of validation is attached, and photographers hold that power, so they know they have this power because people don't want to speak up because then they might lose future modeling jobs. So there's a clear power dynamic, which is always unhealthy. And that's what happened. And then I started associating sex not with something safe, but with people like just trying to touch me, sexually harass me, or assault me. Like there's worse things that happen than that. That's like that's like compared to, again, for most people, that's a crazy story. Somebody like pulling out my dick. That is, compared to some things I've experienced, like truly a mild story.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
Are you ready for the Unleashed tour, where shamelessness, sexiness, and laughter collide in a hilarious orgy of fun, discovery, and sex edutainment? Embark on a captivating nationwide journey with the Shameless Sex podcast and an electrifying ensemble of sex educators and sex-positive entertainers as they bring you an unforgettably titillating live experience. Be a part of mesmerizing, entertaining, boundary-pushing acts, shameless sex style. Ever heard of the Slurpee stick shift? Want to learn how to bury your face in her? How about some dirty talk improv or brat taming 101?
Get ready for nonstop laughter as our charismatic hosts and entertainers weave humor into the fabric of this liberating celebration of sexual diversity and freedom. Engage in interactive segments, Q&A sessions, and a chance to connect with like-minded individuals in an inclusive and empowering environment. Listen up, Portland, Chicago, Seattle, we're coming to you. For more information and to get your tickets right now, go to shamelesssex.com and be part of a night that will be fun, educational, sexy, hilarious, and shamelessly unforgettable. Seats are filling up fast, so don't miss out on the most unforgettable show of the year.
Welcome to the Man-Whore Podcast.
Shout out to the fan whores and the whoreheads, to the pod sluts and the Coke Zero cucks. This is Billy Procida, and you're listening to the Man-Whore Podcast. Sex positive conversations. This week on the show, I've got on former male model and stand-up comedian Mario Adrion, talking about the darker side of the male modeling industry. And I can't wait to share our conversation with y'all in just a little bit. But first, yes, people, tomorrow, it's tomorrow. The Naked Comedy Show is back at the Hacienda in Bushwick. 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock shows. Surprisingly, tickets are still available. Go click the link at the top of the schnotes and hey, use promo code NOFEES to get $5 off. And you can see all of my upcoming clothed comedy dates at manwhorepod.com. Now that I'm back caught up with you in the present tense, that July 4th gig, there were a lot of reactions. There were more reactions a couple weeks ago to a story about a gig I had and anticipations about the gig I was going to have. Then I think there were reactions about the episode itself. The gig I had down in Leesburg, Virginia on July 4th, it was everything I think we were worried it would be. Yes, it was somebody's backyard. It was a cookout. And there were children all over the place, just all over the place. Folks, I don't want to talk you out of hiring stand-up comedians. We need the work. But like, if you're going to hire stand-ups for like a private gig at your home, tell everybody that there will be comedians. Or get an idea if everybody would be down to hear a comedian. And if you're going to have children around, don't hire me. They will get a sex education you weren't prepared to give them yet. I told a fisting joke. I think I even educated many of the adults that yes, 4 fists can fit inside of one asshole. If the girl's got tiny enough hands and you've got enough poppers, anything is possible. It's 90 degrees outside. You know, it started raining during the beginning of the show. the mic gave way on the comic, like in the middle of his set, and I'm like, I even started my set just not use a microphone, and I'm just I'm literally a white man screaming at a bunch of black people in their backyard. That's how the show basically was. But and the lady seems happy with us, gives us our money folded up, and I just put it in my pocket, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for coming," and we talked to her veteran husband, where I'm like, "Oh, thank you for your service." Okay. And then I just go. But I'm 20 minutes down the road when I finally take out the money, I count it, and she shorted me $20. I thought maybe it was an honest mistake. I shoot her a text with my Venmo, my Cash App, which, by the way, are always in the show notes. You can always just send me some money. So, but I hit her up and say, "Oh, it was short 20, but here's my thing." I don't hear back. So I text the other comic. I'm like, "Hey, did she short you $20 too?" And he's like, "Let me check." Oh, fuck, yeah. Shout out to the very kind Tracy who Venmo'd me the difference when I posted down Instagram stories. Much appreciated. But hey, I'm going right back down to Virginia next month in August. And this time it's not even going to be in somebody's backyard. It's going to be like in a little theater. It's going to be in a proper performance space. Hopefully no children this time. Stanley, Virginia, wherever that is. manwhorepod.com. Before I get to my guest this week, Mario Adrion, I want to say a big old thank you to Jennifer Watson. Yes, this is your fan whore appreciation moment. Shout out to this Midwest girlie with her annual membership. Enjoy those bennies all year long, Jennifer. Look forward to catching you in the champagne room and the peep show. Thank you for supporting the pod. And you too can become a member for as little as $3 a month. Yes, just $3, and you get to sit there with a clear conscience. Become a member today. Support the pod you love at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Or download the Patreon app and you can find me on there. Mario Adrion, everybody. He is a stand-up comedian in Los Angeles. He's also a YouTuber and podcaster and former male model. We're talking about some vast, rampant sexual harassment and sexual assault that runs throughout the modeling industry. He's going to tell us plenty about that. But as a comedian, he's also going to tell you what he thinks is kind of funny about it. We also talk about, being married, masculinity, and why the models you think are fucking all the time just might not be. They might just be hungry. Let's go chat with Mario Adrion. And where's the wifey?
The wife is she does exist. A lot of people don't believe that she exists. She does exist. She's currently in a therapy session. Good for her. It's the most LA thing I could have come up with. Yeah. Hot yoga class and therapy session, probably the most LA thing.
Wait, is it hot yoga therapy or is it both back to back?
No, she started both though. It's like when I came here from Germany, I adapted, so I became such a basic white LA girl. Okay. I went to Burning Man. That was the first thing, and then it was over. I started drinking kale juice. I started doing hot yoga. I became the stereotype of a basic white girl in LA. And I love it. It's fun. It's fun. Definitely.
Was she the introduction to that?
No. I actually got her. It's funny. Our relationship is like, I'm more of in some ways more feminine than her. Okay. She's more of the alpha. Okay. Like she is more, she's more American. She gets even more angry sometimes. She eats burgers and American stuff. And then I came in, I'm just like, this guy who eats, who drinks like smoothies and started doing kale juices and like yoga classes. So now I got her into that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very reverse. We like to break the norm with a lot of things in our relationship.
So you got her into that stuff. What influence has she had on you?
She made me more, you know what it is? I'm such a people pleaser, and she made me more of a bitch. She made me like stand up for myself more, She made me more American too in some regards. Yeah. Which is cool, yeah.
How did that come about? Learn to stand up for yourself.
Well, that's one thing. Like I'm if people do me, I'm like Canadians have that stereotype of like if somebody runs into me, I'm gonna apologize to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm that kind of person. I'm just so like trying to please everybody. My wife, she is like more, she'll set boundaries, but she also get angry. And for me, that was a big process to because I come from an industry with modeling where I had to always kind of please people, could never offend people because I was so desperate to get these jobs from these casting directors. So I learned to become this like people pleaser, you know, and she really showed me how to like set boundaries. And for me, I think it's my mom. I talk about my German mom a lot because, you know, moms are such like warm, loving people usually, but my mom is German. A German mom is more like an American dad, you know what I mean? But like not like more of a Navy SEAL dad. Like she's a lumberjack. So with her, I think that's where I got this from. She was very like just like pragmatic, cold, very German, you know? Yeah. Which makes sense back on like if you look at my family history on my mom's side, it's like crazy because their city was bombed during the war in like Dresden, like East Germany. So like they had to be tough women, you know? So that was brought on to me. So I think I felt a little rejected by her. So now I just want like, you know, I can say I got mommy issues. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is, you know?
Right. You're trying to please the ladies in your life the way, you know, you want.
Exactly. Especially with women. You're right. You're right. I think that's what it is. I think with women especially, it's harder for me to set these boundaries because I'm afraid that, you know, because I want them to be proud of me, like my mom would have. You know what I mean?
and I want them to love me the way the girls growing up wouldn't. Everyone said I was going to be, when that movie came out, they were like, "Oh, you're going to be a 40-year-old virgin." Everyone said that like it was just chill to tell me that to my face.
Interesting.
You know?
So then you went the other way, basically.
And I was like, I'm going to be the biggest respectful whore that there's ever been.
That is so funny because I you know the name of your podcast, Manwhore. Right? It's like it's interesting because like for me, it's almost like the opposite with that because, and I don't want to sound cocky. This is like
because you
so
look
unrelatable.
like what people think when they hear the name of this show, and then they hear the name of the show and they see me, they're like, oh, they're like, your podcast doesn't look like its picture.
You know what's interesting about that though? I think if you compensate one way, I almost did it the other way because for me, it's like people expect me to be a fuckboy, you know, just because of my looks.
Yeah,
I'm not at all. Like my body, it would be shocking. Like I've had sex with 6 girls my entire life.
I'm sorry, what?
6 women, yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 30. I just turned 30.
You're 30?
Yeah.
6 women. How long have you been with the wife?
4 years we've been together.
Okay, that's totally fine. I just want to say that's valid and that's okay. I can't imagine it for myself.
See, that's why I was like, it's so interesting that I was on this because when I heard the podcast Manwhore, I was like, oh boy, does he know? You know what I mean? No, it's interesting though. So I think there's a lot of things to unpack. First of all, and this is gonna sound maybe unrelatable, but like you know when you live in New York,
okay,
you could always go see the Statue of Liberty, but you never do because it's always there. It's too accessible. That's how I feel about sleeping with women. Is this relatable?
No, it just gave me COVID. Jesus. But like, okay, well, like, when did you first? How old were you when you first slept with a woman?
Okay, so let's break it down. It's interesting because again, people pleaser. When I was 15 years old, I went to Peru in South America.
Okay,
I lived there for 1 year. Coming from Germany, went to Peru, spent 1 year in South America, and there's a lot of machismo. You know, a lot of people like have sex. Latinos are very good at flirting, right? You know, they're dancing, they're flirting. I went to all these quinceañeras, and there was this pressure from my male friends to sleep with a lot of women. You know what I mean? Even at that age, 15, like to kiss a lot of girls, that was all there was almost like a societal pressure in South America to be with a lot of women, to be like a Casanova, to be like they call it mujeriego, like to be a player, to be a fuckboy. And there's different names. I think mujeriego, that's what they call it. Okay. You know, like a womanizer, woman, you know. Okay. So, and I just wasn't that. I was more of a shy kid, but I looked, you know, I'm a tall German dude in South America. Obviously, I got a lot of attention for that. So then I kind of got pressured into losing my virginity when I was 16 years old, and I lost my virginity to a prostitute in Peru.
That in South America is like a story I feel like I've heard a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Someone's like dad or uncle like took them when they were 16 to 18 to like a brothel and was like, go do that.
Yeah. And it was the story's not like I just paid a prostitute. It's almost like I talked a prostitute into sleeping with me, and I didn't pay her. Which, you know, that's actually, it's honestly, that's I don't know, I'm pretty proud of that part.
You really should.
Yeah. Because I talked to her, I went to this, like, it was like a strip club, and, you know, I was 6, but in Peru, nobody cares about, like, age and like, you know, going to a strip club, all this stuff. But I talked to this woman, and I talked to her. I told her I was 22, but I looked like 12. It was ridiculous. Sure. And then, yeah, we you know, I was like, oh, it's my last day. I basically, like, cried her. I was like, oh, it's my last day before I go back to Germany. And then, went to a motel for like the equivalent of probably like $5, $6 back in the day. For one night. I only paid for the motel room, and then we slept together, and it was quite good. It was quite, honestly, I think I'm not saying this, but I think sleeping with a professional for your first time is probably not the worst thing.
No,
because then at least one person know what they're doing.
Yes.
So then, that happened. It was great. Went back to Germany, and then it was almost like.
Do you think she did because you were young or because of your looks?
I think my looks probably. I think my looks, and then also she probably. I mean, she maybe felt some sort of pity for me because we got along. I saw her a few times. Yeah. I talked to her multiple times. So it was not like I just met her once. I kind of for a couple of weeks I built this relationship with this stripper basically, and
Well, they're also used to like a different kind of looking clientele. They're used to older dudes and maybe sometimes less attractive dudes.
100%.
So like when I was in my early 20s, a lot of like sex workers I would like, because I'm a happy ending massage guy.
Yeah.
Love a happy ending massage because I like a good massage. And at the end of the massage, I'm a little horny. I would like the thing.
Sure.
And frankly, the price differential between a legit massage and a happy ending massage is not that big.
Oh, really?
It almost is fiscally irresponsible to not get the happy ending.
That's great. Write that down, kids. Yeah.
But they're like in my early 20s, like some of them would make out with me. They knew I didn't have like extra money. I would say, "Hi, I'm 23. I'm a comedian." And so they know this wasn't a money making venture.
Sure.
And like some of them would like make out with me. And like I remember doing a weekend in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the I forget what the place was called, the whatever, Chuckle Fuck Shack.
The comedy club or the massage parlor?
Both. I don't remember. I remember it was on North 125th Street in Tulsa. Okay. So if anyone can find out where that was. But like she like in the middle of it, like she was starting the happy end part and she was also young and said, "Look, I haven't had sex in a while. My tubes are tied. Like, you're really cute. Would you like to have sex?" I was like, "Oh, I don't want to pay for that." She's like, no, not for extra. Just like, I just want to fuck you. I'm like, wow. All right, sick.
Wow.
And then afterwards, I was like, do I tip extra or not? Because I want to, on principle, I tip for the massage. Anyways.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, so I think there's something to like when you're pretty and young, like these women are like, it's a treat for me.
Sure, yeah. How do the specifics work of that? Do you go into the massage knowing it's going to be a happy ending, or is it kind of like...
Oh, yeah. I'm not trying to like flip a coin on if I'm going to accidentally harass a random masseuse, but like you could find things on Craigslist or we used to have Backpage before 2018 and some legislation passed or whatever.
Got it.
So there's places where you can go to find that. I think I found that one on Craigslist. I searched like massage, and you can tell by the marketing. If it's sexier marketing, that's what it is.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can get an idea.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I had one massage in Thailand, and I didn't know. It was I was with my mom, went to Thailand, and I checked into the hotel early. She had a different flight. I came from the US, she came from Germany. And I was there, and then at like 10 p.m., I check into the hotel, and they asked me if I want a massage. And I was like, you know what? I had a long flight. Let's do it, right? And then a masseuse comes to my hotel room. And I'm laying on the bed, she massaged. And I, fully oblivious, never had to have any massage. I thought it was just going to be a regular massage, right? And then laying there, she gives me a nice massage. And then out of nowhere, no vibes were exchanged. Absolutely nothing. I'm just in my underwear, on the bed. She's massaging me. Out of nowhere, she just like grabs my penis.
Oh.
Squeezes it and says, and I'm not making this up, she says, anaconda. Like the snake.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, she said nothing. No vibes, no words were exchanged. She doesn't really speak English either. She just said, touch my penis, says anaconda. And then I was kind of shy and I didn't know how to like react to this. So I just like pretended it didn't happen because I didn't know if it was a question or a statement, But then she like, it kept going and then massaged more for like 15 minutes more. And then again, out of nowhere, grabs my dick, says anaconda. And then she asked me, massage anaconda too?
Okay.
And then I thought about my mom. My mom always told me to, it's disrespectful.
Exactly what you want to think about when somebody grabs your dick is your mom.
100%. I looked outside the window and I thought about like how my mom always told me to be respectful to other cultures and how it can be disrespectful to decline an offer, like if somebody prepares you a meal, right? So I said yes, and then it was weird though because she kind of like she got a phone call in the middle of giving me a massage, and she takes it and she talks to her sister in Thai. I don't know. I don't understand why she's giving me a massage. It was the weirdest thing, and I can't understand a word they're saying. You know, I hope she wasn't talking about making fun of my anaconda or something. It was odd.
That's funny. On one hand, it's like I don't want to be rude and reject a free hand job. But on the other hand, lady, kill me vibe.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've had shit like that happen too, where they leave the room. Like if at an Asian massage parlor, like they gotta go take care of some kind of business, and I'm just on the table for an unknown period of time, or sometimes like they gotta check. Sometimes they say, I'm sorry, I gotta take this call. I'm like, do you?
Yeah.
Is this really a call you gotta take right now?
Yeah, no.
It's weird. That's funny. Good time to say I'm here right now, by the way, with comedian Mario Adrion.
You killed it. That was great.
Adrion, or Adrian, as the dumb Americans say.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I never want to like break Americans' short circuit. I think if they're trying to pronounce French words, so like
we love to take all European names and bastardize them. Like it's Mario, but like here we'd be like Mario.
Mario. That's
I grew up thinking I have an Uncle Mario. It's like it's Uncle Mario. Or my last name Procida.
Okay.
It should be Projita.
Oh, really?
Like
okay, yeah.
Projita.
Yeah.
But we came over here and my dad's like, hey, I'm Procida.
Procida. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So with the whole, people assume you're a fuckboy thing.
Yeah.
So you had that experience when you were 16.
Yeah.
Were you someone who like talked to a lot of girls when you got into like college ages? Like, were you talking to a lot of women? Because obviously you have this bone structure that everyone makes assumptions about.
Yeah. It's funny to say. Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's kind of like I was always a nice guy, and that sounds weird to say about myself, but I was always worried I was going to make women feel uncomfortable. I don't know where it comes from, but I never was like hitting on girls, and sometimes I was even oblivious when girls were hitting on me. I was just kind of innocent and vanilla when it comes to that. But then I remember like in school, after I had sex and lost my virginity, I was like, cool, I did that. So I think I didn't have sex because I really wanted to. I had sex because I wanted to fit in with other men, right? So it's almost like from the beginning, sex was something that was not necessarily something I wanted to do because it's something beautiful I want to experience. It was more like, I want to please other people, right? Yeah. That was how it started. And then I think the reason why I really had a more difficult relationship with sex is because I started modeling, where you are becoming sexualized, and sex is kind of becoming your job, So you associate sex not with something beautiful you want to share with another person. You associate sex with work. That's what happened to me, because then I had some girlfriends and I had some sex, but nothing really like, I don't know, it was never really something I felt like, I need to have sex right now. It was kind of, I don't know, I had a lower sex drive. Also started working out a lot at that time because I started modeling. And then when you work out a lot and your body fat is so low, because you get bullied by casting directors, agents, photographers to look I have this joke where I'm like, I had 6-pack abs when I came to New York, and I saw this Brazilian dude next to me. He had 14 abs, just like abs everywhere, It was crazy. Like the beauty standards of like, you think you're beautiful, but then you go to New York and you're like, oh shit, no, I got to work harder.
Oh, don't worry. I never thought I was beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. No, but like, even if you move from like, you say Oklahoma, if you move from Oklahoma to LA, there's different beauty standards, right? So you might feel like a 7 in Oklahoma, but then you go to LA and you're 2,
Like, we talk about like a Midwest 9.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So that's what I experienced. And then I went on this crazy diet, which also killed my sex drive, I think.
I can imagine.
Because when your bodybuilders don't feel a lot of sex drive while they're on the crazy diet to, get to 4% body fat for a competition. So.
Yeah, I know I don't look like it, but I also have an eating disorder. No, I've had a lot of disordered eating in my past. I think that's part of what Catherine thought it was, we would be a good fit.
Yeah.
And when I'd be in the peaks of some kind of diet, like slow carb or whatever, I did Weight Watch for a bunch of years. So like all day I'm just doing fucking math in my head. Yeah. It's not always making me turned on because like I'm either really hungry or cranky or I'm thinking about the next meal.
Gives you anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety killed sex drive, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously being a model,
like, hey babe, don't you want to fantasize about me? No, I'm fantasizing about a burger.
Exactly.
That's what I'm fantasizing about.
Yeah. It's true. You can't be, it makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint. You can't be horny and procreate if you're not satiated, in some way. So you have to have that balance. So.
Did you feel like passion invested in the relationships just not the sex part, or the girlfriends that came and went in general, you were like, eh.
Well, my first so modeling fucked up a lot of things for me, because before modeling it was cool. I was in Germany. I had a girlfriend, and she was a virgin, so like we had sex for the first time. It was great, and I think in Germany also there's something. Even though Germany is known to be very sexually open, like Berlin, we talked about Kit Kat Club in Berlin, but at the same time, Germany has, especially rural Germany, women are not as like, especially women we don't talk about our feelings as much. We don't talk about sex as much. We just like a bit more closed off when it comes to that. So I never talked about sex with my first girlfriend, which is why the relationship was a little bit like, sex was a little bit of a thing we were both nervous about, and then I had a girlfriend that was from Colombia. In Berlin. And that is when I was like, oh no, this woman knows more than I do. And that was beautiful because it kind of complements. She was more sexual than me, which is the case in a lot of my relationships. And that's what like created this like, good sexual relationship. And, but then what happened is I started modeling, which first of all, again, the stress, the lifestyle, the anxiety killed the sex drive. But then on top of that, I would leave every 2 months to move to a new city or country. Like, to give you an idea, when I started modeling, I went to New York for 2 months, had a contract there, stayed in a model apartment in Brooklyn, did 2 months of the most intense, New York kind of can eat you up. Did that, then I went to Singapore for 2 months, lived there for 2 months. Then I went to Milan for 2 months. Then I went to like Australia for 2 months for modeling. Then I went to Korea for 2 months. So I never had a home, and I knew I would have to leave. So one time I had a girlfriend, and my heart was broken because like she had to move on. We're both models. And I was so in love with her. And after that, I was like, no, I'm going to close myself off. It's safer for me to not open up because I move on. I physically moved on all the time. So if I open up too much to a person, that means that I can get hurt.
Yeah.
So then I avoided kind of like sex and also relationships in general. Closeness in general, even like friendships, really, I kind of avoided because it was just like hard to always move on and lose people essentially.
Meanwhile, everyone looks at you and probably assumes you're fucking all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And like, are you feeling that during that time? Like, are you sensing that off of people? Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I did feel a lot in New York, especially because I went to parties with actual Victoria's Secret models. Like, my agency is called One Management. They had a couple of girls that were like, like very successful models, like the most beautiful women on the planet I was with. So sometimes it was hard for me to hear the expectations of other men, right? Like in my hometown back in Germany, all my friends would be like, oh my God, Mario, I'm sure you're like having sex all the time with all these models, you know what I mean? Meanwhile, I wasn't. And I felt like I was judging myself too for not wanting that.
And you're disappointing them because you don't have some sort of fun, hot story to share.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Really, it was like that, and a lot of that's what got back to the people pleasing. I should have just like loved myself for being the way I am because I was genuinely happy. You know what I mean? Sure, there's a lot of stress in my life, but I was genuinely happy traveling. I didn't feel like I was missing anything, but because I was trying to fit in with other men. Mm-hmm. And fit the norm of what a man is supposed to be, like that's what made it like difficult for me, right? That was what created more anxiety instead of accepting myself. So what I did, I tried some crazy diets with like more fat to lower my testosterone to get more sex drive. Meanwhile, I think it was all like a little psychological.
Wait, lowered the testosterone to gain sex drive?
Oh no, increase my testosterone.
Okay,
because my testosterone was pretty low. I did a blood test because I was trying to figure out why do I not want to have as much sex as other people, you know? And then I tried this crazy diet.
You went to a doctor and asked, like, can you check for it?
Yeah.
I wanted to check.
Literally,
be like, I cry like maybe a little too much. Can we check my T?
Can you check
I've legit thought for like 8 years of like, I feel like I should get my testosterone checked. I'm really emotional.
Wait, is that so? Does testosterone make you less emotional too?
I have no idea. I just know that like I cry probably a little too easily.
Okay.
And I think like there's got to be at some point. I do a lot of therapy, so I thought like at some point could it be my T? I don't know.
But if your sex drive is high, then I mean it depends, right?
Yeah.
It's all like bullshit though, because my T was low, but I had like physically I was strong, I could lift weights, all that stuff. So I don't know. Sometimes it's not as black or white. I think there's multiple things at play. But yeah, man. And then again, I think also, and I've talked about this on Emma's podcast, I think you listen to, also I experienced a lot of sexual harassment, which I truly think that is probably the biggest part of it. Yeah. There's one part with like my diet and lifestyle and stress and not wanting to get attached to people. But then also I had so many photographers like touch me. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's to give you an idea, it's like, it's It's stories that, you know, I listened to the Harvey Weinstein stories, right? Where like the girl was like, oh, he did this and he tried to touch me. And I was like, this is the big story. I was like, this is what I experience every single day.
Yeah.
Like literally every week somebody would touch my dick. Like at a photo shoot. Like it's insane, the frequencies. It becomes so normal.
And doing it in a way where like they're not being mindful to ask, hey, I need to adjust you. I need to move something for the shot, or they're grabbing it like, I'm going to grab this.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's like in between. They go like, "Oh, can I adjust your underwear?" This is what happened one time. He was like, photographer's like in New York. Hey, can I adjust your underwear real quick? And I was like, sure, go ahead. The dude pulls my underwear to the front, grabs my penis, right? Not from the outside, from the inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Pulls on it, like he lengthens it, puts it in the middle, pushes it down again, closes the underwear. Like it was a routine move. He's done this before. You know?
Because
It was
he's not even thinking like this is a human being. He's thinking this is like a plastic doll, and I'm going to adjust because like he wants a bulge to look differently in the shot.
Yeah.
He's not remembering like there's a human, and I need to ask.
Exactly.
I would like to maybe have this effect. How can we? I don't know. Can you do this to yourself? But not because I imagine that they, once you're put on the clothes, they don't see you as human. They see you as a mannequin.
Object,
Yeah, an
100%.
object,
Yeah, and I don't think it was purely to adjust the underwear. It was a sexual thing. It was like to please him, right? It
Yeah.
was like this, and the photographers, they just think they can do it because there's this power dynamic at play. You're a young model. You're desperate. You're broke. Like most, I did fine in modeling. You know, I did some jobs. But even with that. Like it's so uncertain because my first month in modeling, I made a lot of money. My first like 4 months in modeling, I made a lot of money, and I was like, I mean, a lot compared to like, you know, what I was like for one job, for example, I was paid like $6,000, which is crazy for me at that time, you know.
Yeah.
So then you think that's the new benchmark, but then like for 2 months after, I was in Milan, got no jobs. You know what I mean? And then you're like, oh shit. So like, there's this constant desperation, this constant like fear. A lot of validations attached, and photographers hold that power, so they know they have this power because people don't want to speak up because then they might lose future modeling jobs. Yeah. So there's a clear power dynamic, which is always unhealthy, and it seems like as humans, whenever there's a power dynamic at play, people tend to abuse it, whether it's in film, whether it's in any industry really, where it's power dynamic, it just gets abused. So that's what happened, and then I started associating sex not with something safe, but with people like just trying to touch me, sexually harass me, or assault me. Like there's worse things that happen than that. That's like that's like compared to, again, for most people, that's a crazy story. Somebody like pulling out my dick. That is compared to some things I've experienced, like truly a mild story, you know? Yeah.
Is the fashion industry having like having a movement to speak out more about this stuff now? Have you called out specific photographers or people in the industry?
Yeah, I think there is, and I think it started with women, which is very important. I think women at large are victims of sexual assault way more than men. But in the modeling industry specifically, I would make the point that men are victims of sexual assault and harassment more than women, because the industry is run by gay men. You know, like most big photographers, agents, casting directors are gay men. So, and on top of that, with men, there was this, I think men, it's now getting there. It was lacking a little bit. The awareness that you can harass a man was just not there. Also, because it's hard to speak up about this stuff as a man.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, especially as a straight man, if a guy touches you, harasses you, or assaults you, some people are afraid that makes them gay.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're to blame, you know? So it's easier somehow it's easier as a woman to, I think, talk about this stuff.
Well, because the narrative that already exists is we know that people are trying to take sex from women. That's like 100%. For millennia, that we've known that.
100%.
But the idea of like taking sex from a man, well, we go like, well, we assume you, like, if the perpetrator is a woman, we assume you wanted it because, like, we, you know, as a society in the world, we assume,
100%.
oh, all men want all sex that they are offered, and they even want sex that they're not being offered,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And then if it comes from the, you know, another man, I think there's a little bit more of a narrative that we can understand. Well, someone who's of a gender you're not interested in touched you, so we like easier can believe it.
100%.
But like if it's the perpetrator is a woman, it's hard to. I had a fucking comedy club owner make fun of me because I had a woman who in college she fucked me without my consent.
Yeah,
and then I like text her the next morning and be like, I didn't really like didn't love that. She was older, right? And then about a week or two later, I am meeting up with a woman this was at Eastville Comedy Club, but above Eastville It's actually where the New York Comedy Club is now on 4th Street, but it used to be called Eastville Comedy Club, which is now in Brooklyn. Anyways, doesn't matter. But there's a bar upstairs, a different venue upstairs. So I was meeting a woman upstairs, and I'm walking by Eastville, and they have a big open window. So I see Dan Soder sitting in the window, and I thought, oh, I'll go say hi to Dan.
Yeah.
Because at the time I'm like a 20-year-old, but and Dan was very nice to me at the time. And so I walk in, I was like, oh, I'll say hi to Dan. But when I open the door, sitting right in front, like 10 feet from the door, straight ahead, is Marco, the comedy club owner, and this woman, Sarah, who raped me. And then she just stops, stares at me, points, and she says to Marco, he says I raped him. Marco, the owner of this club that like I've ostensibly wanted to work at, laughs hard. I freeze. I look over at Soder, and he's looking weird like, hey, Procida. And I'm like, hey, Dan. And then there's someone else. I was like, oh, hey. And then I was like, I'm going to go. And I just like went upstairs. And then for a couple of years, this comedy club owner would make fun every time we would hang out. Because I would go hang at the club, and I was this young guy. So he'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll talk to this young kid and whatever. And he'd always be like, oh, you should talk more about how you think that woman raped you. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. But how am I supposed to tell him to fuck off? Because I want to work his club one day.
Sure,
and he's been making it seem like I could, I was doing some guest spots here and there. And then I finally sent him an email. And I didn't even yell at him. I just said, he said it for the umpteenth time. So I just sent him an email, hey, man, I'd really like it if you just like would not joke about that to me or like not laugh at me or whatever, because I tried to do it really kind, right? Because I don't want to upset him.
Sure.
Never got an email back. And then anytime I was at the club, cold shoulder, barely like looked at me, won't like acknowledge my presence. His wife was still being nice to me because she probably didn't know about it. And then eventually I sent another email to like the wife to be like, hey, what's going on? Never got a response. Now the couple's like kind of cold shouldering me.
Damn, yeah.
And so like obviously I don't work that place. I don't go to that fucking place. But
yeah.
It's like people, they don't want to, the idea of a guy being violated is still hard for some people to understand.
Yeah, because also the narrative is that people think that assault happens because of a physical dominance. Because as a man, you always have, especially when I'm physically fit, so people are always like, how can
Why didn't you fight it out?
How can you get harassed or assaulted by somebody?
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. Like when somebody, first of all, the power dynamic. Secondly, I'm not a confrontational person. Mm-hmm. And then also, when this shit happens and somebody like just like grabs your dick, like I've had crazy shit. One time I was sitting down at a photo shoot and I was like kind of laying down and it was an underwear photo shoot for a magazine and I had like some jacket on and the photographer, no vibes were exchanged, much like the Thai lady. Just like,
who, by the way, also she was doing a coin flip of she's grabbing your dick. Grant, culture's different, whatever, but like
sure. No, that too.
Either you're into that or she's assaulted you. Like
100%. Yep. Yeah. And again, with her, I give a little bit of there might be a miscommunication with she thought that was what I booked or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. But even
she was like, this is the hand job place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Read?
The hotel.
In Thai, this is the hand job store.
The hand job store. Yeah.
Clearly, you didn't.
100%. So that was a little strange. Sure. And then,
but you're saying you were sitting down.
Oh yeah, this photographer would like pull my pants down. Pulled his pants down, tried to sit on me, and I was like, yo. So like in that moment, I'm not like in that moment. What I did, I fucking froze because it's like it's beyond the scope of what I could comprehend. It's almost like when you're in that situation, like I just like didn't fucking know what was happening. I was like, what is happening? And then the crazy thing, this guy told me I just said something like, oh, I'm not comfortable, and then he this is crazy. I never forget this. He looks at me, he goes, Mario, this is the fashion industry, and if you want to be successful, you have to be more open minded because fashion is about sex. Yeah. So he blamed me for like not wanting to,
and at that point, like he knows exactly what he's doing. Yeah. He's saying that because he's like, I've got this line canned.
100%. Because I'm a young model from Eibisbach im Hochschwarzwald, Germany, a small town. So,
because a human being would go, oh, you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to make you fuck me.
So that's actually some things that are a little messed up about it. Where sure, these people also, they know the power they have. They know like the dynamic that exists and they use it, right? Especially if it's a young model, they know what to say. It's a very, very manipulative industry. And to your question, a lot of men have come out now. Like women, they were kind of pioneering the whole movement with like Me Too. Now there's a lot of photographers. There's like every major, I would say out of the top 5 major male fashion photographers that are like gay, and they're all, most of them are Mario Testino, Bruce Weber, all gay men, right? Those are the top 2 ones. Both of them, and there's like 3 other ones. Both of them have been accused. And then once one dude comes forward, 15 other ones. Yeah. We're like, oh no, he also did this to me at the photo shoot. Oh, he also did this breathing technique with me. Like, it's it's very it's so common. It's so common, and there's a whole thing with Abercrombie and Fitch. I don't know if you saw this it's a whole article in the New York Times also. Abercrombie and Fitch, they had a whole thing where like the former CEO of Abercrombie and the photographer Bruce Weber, who's like shot for Abercrombie, like famous photographer with all the iconic Hollister campaigns, they had like they had these sex parties where they would invite, like in the south of France in the Hamptons, and they would invite these models who were like potentially could get booked for these campaigns for like Abercrombie, right? And they would invite these men there, and it was almost like this unspoken thing that you go to these parties and you have to like say yes to sexual things, and then you're gonna get booked for the next campaign for Abercrombie. Yeah. And that happened so much. I mean, I have so many friends who like went to the Hamptons with these people, or other Ralph Lauren, like so many of the big Calvin Klein even went to the Hamptons. I don't know what they did, but then they ended up being the face of that brand. So that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. So then you're like, oh shit, maybe that's what I have to do,
Did you ever name names?
I don't think I specifically named names.
Or even privately, like among industry, whether to an agent or anything like that.
To people like that agent, yeah. But I made a video on YouTube where I talked about the sexual assault story, but didn't specifically name all the names of people. One time I did, and that's a whole nother crazy. It's kind of like hard to explain even. But the first photographer I shot with in Germany, even this happened even in Germany, but it was an American. To be fair, he was like, did this fake casting for Calvin.
You're like, a German would never. An American in Germany. That's
no, for Germans too. But like, I think this is just like because the industry is smaller in Germany. We don't have like Ralph. We don't have Abercrombie in Germany. It's more German jobs I've done. Puma and Adidas in Germany. They're just like professional. Also, the more corporate it gets, the more safe it gets. Like Macy's, Bloomingdale's, these jobs, I never had any issues. It's always the high fashion people. It's always like the designers. It's always like the big photographers. It's never the corporate jobs. For like Nike. Those
when there's shareholders involved. But you're saying like when it's been smaller, and there may be a little bit of a. There's a historical attitude there.
Yes.
Whereas in like a Macy's and Bloomingdale's has been watered down through the corporatization of it all.
It's a corporation. And that's what did those jobs I enjoyed the most because I knew nothing was going to happen. I shot for Bloomingdale's a lot in New York. They had a studio in Soho. And it was awesome. I went there, like, they booked me like sometimes multiple times a week. Sure. It was safe. They gave me nice food. They had nice lunch and breakfast, It was just sweet. And it was like everybody was friendly. And, sometimes the jobs are a little tough or like, long days. But it was
a long day, but no one grabbed my dick.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you hear other people complain and be like, oh, this is really tough. Long hours, overtime. You're like, you know what? But no one grabbed our dicks.
Yeah. What's funny though? I have a joke about this where I was like, after this guy lengthened my dick, I went back to Germany. I told my model friends, I was like, yo guys, I just did a modeling job in New York. And this photographer, he lengthened my dick. And they were like, oh my God. You got a modeling job in New York? I got to call my agent, dude. And that's crazy, So it's truly like, it's so normal, It's like just...
Do you talk to your agent after some of these incidents and say, I don't want to work with that photographer?
Kind of, but the agents are almost like in it. Sometimes.
They enable it?
They kind of just like... Often they turn their... What's it called? Like they turn a...
Blind eye.
They turn a blind eye on because... They know that they will benefit financially if I book this campaign with these big photographers. They're almost like, but nobody really prepared me. There was one agent who actually, you take these photos, these digitals when you're modeling, which is like not edited photos in natural light of your, sometimes underwear, just regular jeans, shirtless, and with a shirt, like basic photos, just natural, so they know what you look like. And you send them to like casting directors. You have to do them like every month. So when I did that with him, we did the regular ones with like jeans, and then he was like, okay, now let's do some, but like, pull down your pants a little bit, you know what I mean? Show a little bit of like very sexual photos, right? And he would send those to the big photographers, because that's the in of like, okay, you can have a meeting with this guy at his hotel room because you lure them in. It's almost like you're thirst trapping big photographers that they want to like with sex essentially, so that they will like want to work with you. And again, I'm not saying all agencies are like that. Some agencies, and again, there's more awareness, but a lot of agents know about this, but they just go like, well, you got to have to deal with this and just be, somebody been tell me like, hey, you got to be a little if somebody says something, just don't make it a big deal. Just like kind of play along with it. Which to a certain extent, I think you shouldn't be, because there's the other extreme. Some models I know that were like, the photographer would give them a compliment, be like, "Oh, your butt looks very nice in these underwear," and they'd be like, "What the fuck? Get away from me! I'm not shooting this," and they run out, because they're so afraid of anything of male compliments or anything like that. And for me, it was never like that. I think there's a balance of like, sure, you have to. There's certain amount
to take some compliments. You literally are a model.
Sure, and also a certain amount of flirting, even because almost with the photographer, the dynamic is like you're a exhibitionist and the photographer is a voyeurist or whatever. So there's that dynamic where you have to kind of. There is a little bit of an artistic.
You're kind of flirting with the camera.
Inherently, there is a vibe, right? So I get
it's
that.
How we get the thing that we're trying to get.
Absolutely,
here. Sure. But when it crosses that physical plane is when it becomes
exactly.
appropriate.
So it's a lot of gray lines. I get why this industry is so easily sexualized because it's inherently sexual.
Well, I feel like the gray line is the waistband, which I think so. Maybe is sometimes gray. I don't know. But the waistband I feel like should be where the line is physically drawn.
Yeah. No, 100%.
You said I think you briefly mentioned like you one time did on like a YouTube video name a name and then it got complicated.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this was in Germany. My God. This guy basically pretended to be a casting director for Calvin Klein. Okay. This is before I even had an agent. It was in Germany when I first did some photo shoots. And he was like, "Oh, come, we're going to shoot some photos in a park in like a small city in Germany called Würzburg," which is, I should have, but I didn't know, like, no big photographer for Calvin Klein is in Würzburg. That's like a random city, That's like saying, "Oh, we're doing in Minneapolis, we have a big casting for a Calvin Klein." It's weird. Yeah. So then we're doing that, and then
sorry to anyone from Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's the first city.
You're a very important mid-level city. I promise. I hear you have a great comedy club. Okay, sorry.
I'm actually going there in 2 weeks. Yeah, but so we get to his studio or something, shoot some photos. Oh no, he said it was for Axe body spray. That's what it was. And he said, "Okay, now we're gonna have to shoot some photos naked." And I was like, "Wait, but like." Why? And he said, "Oh yeah, because it's for Axe body wash. We need to like, in order for us to know that you're comfortable. The ad is not going to be naked, obviously, but in order for us to know that you're comfortable with clothing, we got to see that you're comfortable with no clothing." And I was like, "That makes perfect sense, So like, yeah, we take these photos, and he was like, "Oh no, nobody's going to see these photos, blah blah." And then after that, he wants to give me massage, try to touch my dick, all this stuff. Like, it's almost like a side note at that point. But then after I saw the photos and they were leaked online on some website called homotography.org, like the gay website of like leaked photos. And he just leaked the photos. So that's like really like fucked up, you know what I mean? Because he told me specifically the photos were not going to be shown anywhere. It's just for internal casting use. And the casting obviously was all fake. Yeah. Like, he's not a casting director for Axe. He's not affiliated with Axe at all. So then I made a video talking about the experience. And I didn't even name his name, but I showed the logo of his company called BTS Media or something. Okay. Yo, the guy went after me.
Of course.
Reported the video on YouTube. And here's the crazy part. I mean, this guy's mentally unwell, clearly. He made a video after all this shit happened. He made a video called Mario Adrion Assault Like Rape Me. In the voice of it's an auto-generated voice of like a stock photo of an Asian model saying, "When I was in Singapore, Mario Adrion brought me back to his hotel room and tried to like assault me and all this stuff and the pain," and like made multiple videos accusing me of which is, I mean, I didn't do it. I'm gonna say never. It's just crazy because I basically mentioned that he had assaulted me, made me feel uncomfortable because he wanted to give me a massage after a photo shoot and then tried to touch my dick, and I said no multiple times. And then he made this whole thing and the videos. It took me a long time with the lawyer to get those videos removed. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, just some very unhealthy people in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you able, like, during all, what like, how many year time span would you say all this is kind of going on during?
Probably like 4 years.
4 years. And in that 4 years, like, are you able to engage in sexual in sex with women? Like, are you able to do that? Or are you having a block as a result of some?
There was a block for sure. Yeah, there was some trauma with it for sure.
Would you attempt to and have difficulties?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I would just avoid it after overall. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And sometimes I had a girlfriend and it would be fine. But then sometimes, I had some like, it was not so much that I was when I had sex, it was more like, I was avoiding the whole thing. And I didn't know why. I was like, and again, in the moment, I was not aware that this was trauma related. I just thought, I'm just like working a lot. I'm just stressed. And I'm just not a sexual person. I almost gave myself the label asexual, you know, because I was like, this feels nice. Asexual. I learned about it and I was like, this seems like me.
This is my excuse for not, and I don't have to tell everyone that it's trauma related. I'm just asexual. No big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it was easier in a way because then it gave me a label and
a flag. They have
right.
colors.
You know, it was cool, and because I still like the romantic aspects a lot. Right, I fell in love with people, and I like the romantic aspects. With I love kissing women. I love like feeling that like closeness between humans. Right.
Yeah.
But not necessarily like the sexual part. Right. And that's something that I had to. That took me a while to work through. And I still had sex, and sometimes I would have sex. Again, like sometimes I would be like, oh fuck, I haven't had sex in a year and a half, and I'm in New York, a model. So then I had sex with somebody not because I wanted to, because I was like, my stats are whack. You know,
I'm only at 4 chicks.
Exactly. So I was like,
yeah. Do you feel like you've finished overcoming that within your sex life, or is that something you still struggle with?
It's still, because there's another part where it was like I actually experienced rape, like I was drugged and actually raped. So that was like something that was a bigger impact. Yeah. And when that happened, that was I said it was just an experience. I just moved on from it. Mm. But that was something that impacted me a lot in my sex life. To this day, I think. And I'm learning, I'm processing a lot of it. But even with my girlfriend, like with my wife now, sometimes like I remember we were on the couch one day and she wasn't even trying to initiate sex, but I just showered. I came back from a workout. I was in my underwear, and she was watching something on TV. I was just sitting next to her, and then she like tried to like put my hand on my shoulder or something, and then her hand like just slid down and touched my underwear. And like she didn't even. It was kind of like an accident. She didn't try to like initiate anything, but like I had this like reaction, so I just pulled her hand away and held her hand away from me, and that was almost like this like reflex.
Yeah.
It was not conscious. It was like this reflex, like, textbook trauma response, So that's basically something that's still like now we have to talk about. And like, if she touches me, sometimes she's like, hey, can I touch you? So that like sometimes helps me when I know it's happening, I can prepare myself. I'm totally fine if we have great sex. Yeah. But in the moment, sometimes when it's unexpected, I still have that response, right? Yeah.
It hasn't been asked for, but it sounds like you have a loving wife who's willing to be communicative.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Isn't prescribing some sort of male bullshit upon you, and is like, babe, if you need me to like ask for your consent, even though we're married,
sure,
I will do that because I love you and I want you to feel safe and comfortable, so you can fuck the shit out of me. Because like that's what we need to do to get there. Like that's what we'll do, and that's beautiful because not every woman out there is as patient and caring about it.
That's true. Yeah, she's very understanding with that, and she actually helped me to like fully, talk about it, acknowledge it, and work on it, stuff like that. Yeah.
How is it talking about this stuff? I know this is not the first time you have, but like I know you did the YouTube video and you've done it, talked about it on other pods.
Oh yeah.
How's it feel?
Awesome. I mean, not awesome. It's obviously a tough topic, but I think it's very empowering because it's almost like that makes it all make sense. Like if I can share this and help just one guy out there, or woman, doesn't matter, or person who's been struggling with things and thinks they can't talk about it, and then that's already kind of worth what I went through. You know what I'm saying? Like talking about it on YouTube was very difficult, but it was very cathartic. Like once I talked about it and I saw the comments of people who were like, "Oh, Mario, I'm a man. I felt like I could never talk about this." That's beautiful because that creates so much positivity. Yeah. So it's almost like I don't regret what happened, because so many beautiful things came from it, including talking about this in a podcast and also in stand-up comedy. I have I have a show tonight actually where I'm gonna do it's my new material show, and I've made some attempts. I've done like 2-3 times, told the whole story of the actual sexual assault, and it's tough because getting an audience to be not worried for you but laugh with you about a very traumatic thing is very difficult. Living in that tension as a comedian, we always want to be silly, Yeah. It's easier to make jokes about, silly things. But
meanwhile, Hannah Gadsby pretty much like wrote a textbook on how to do it now.
I mean, I don't know how she does it. Like holding that silence and tension at the Sydney Opera House for like minutes of no laughs, just like deep. I mean, she's a master at it, right? Yeah, I mean that's she's the
Or
one who did it.
I think Hannah's using they them pronouns now. I think I don't know.
Oh really?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
A note to the other people.
Okay.
I'm just remembering.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hannah, to talk about something like that so seriously is like you're playing with tension on like top tier level.
That's memorable though.
Yeah.
If you can pull it off, that's what people remember, and that's what's beautiful. I mean, that's the biggest challenge creatively, but that's like what I'm really excited about for right now.
Yeah.
Taking it to the stage.
Let me ask you this. So you said the material you're working on around that they've done a few times it's about, I guess, all of it at large, but you specifically go through this one story of the drugging?
No, everything at large, I've done before, and that works.
Okay, but the story...
The specific getting drugged, and that's that part. There's a lot there that's just very like...
Well, it's so funny because like my question I was going to ask was, comic to comic, what do you think is funny about your rape?
Great. Yeah, that, and I think the whole scenario, I was in China with this person. Mm-hmm. He wanted me to watch the movie Bridesmaids in Chinese with German subtitles. Then asked me to do ketamine.
As one does when we watch Bridesmaids.
As one does, So again, power dynamic, I did it. So there's a lot of making fun of myself for even being in that situation. Mm-hmm. Like I have this running joke where I'm like, I didn't want to go. I'm not going to meet up with a stranger in China. It's highly unprofessional. I'm better than that. But then they told me he's a billionaire. So we're hanging out at his place. There's all these decisions I made. So I'm making fun of like me going past red flags. That's one thing. And then the whole scenario is just hilarious. The fact how I process it, the fact that it's a Chinese guy, the fact that it's so normal in modeling too. But again, the reason, I think you have to reason. The reason why I'm telling the story at the end is also, it's empowering. It's like, I'm telling the story because I want to tell men that it's okay to talk about it. So that's like the reason for telling it. I think that's what is the difference between a lot of these people just talk about edgy stuff because, I got to talk about Israel-Palestine because it's edgy. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, but what's the why are you telling this? Why are you telling about, people talk about their dead, people dying or something, but why? Just because it's captivating, you got raped just because of that, the shock value, or is there a message? And I think that's what you have to have a perspective of why you telling this other than it being a shocking story. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, that's the...
How is married life treating you?
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not so different from being engaged or in a relationship before that. You know what I mean? It's like nothing has really, we got married and then nothing has really changed except for the label. We act, it's not like one day to another you're married and then all of a sudden everything changes. Like, and because that's what I thought somehow. I thought I'm a married man. Everything's going to change. No, it's awesome. We have the same love. Now the only thing we're planning is like, thinking about planning a family at some point. Mm-hmm. I'm still planning a wedding in Germany, by the way. Because we got married in Vegas. Oh. We eloped. Just the two of us.
Okay.
Nobody else. Just a fun weekend in Vegas. Very silly. We're very silly. That's what connects us.
Did you do the little chapel?
Yeah.
Tiny little...
Yeah. We did it in front of a Vegas sign. Just silly. I had like a little like shirtless with like it was very like silly and sexy. My wife's a fashion stylist and designer. So we had a great time.
She's a fashion stylist, and she said, "I would like you to wear minimal clothes."
Exactly. Yeah. She put me in this little like It was great. It was also very hot.
Can't wait for you to show those pictures to your future children.
Oh yes, it is. It's gonna be great.
You're like, they'll see the German wedding photos.
Yes. Yeah. I had a wedding speedo. That's what I had. Yeah. Okay. No, but it was great. And then we're planning a wedding at a castle in Germany.
A castle?
A castle.
Is that normal in Europe?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. Europe, and this might be unrelatable, but like castles are so boring to us because we grew up with them. There's a castle. My hometown is like 30 minutes to the French border. I looked up wedding locations. Within a 1 hour radius, there's like 5 castles we could have gone to. There's castles everywhere.
And do like people own them, or does like the state own them? Like,
depends. The one we're getting married at is called Weitenburg. It's in it's in the south of Germany, and the guy who owns it is basically the heir of the actual family, which is rare. A lot of them are just owned by, I think, the state. I don't think there's like an actual family usually, but this guy actually lives there and is very well kept, and he rents it out for events, and it's gorgeous.
Are there abandoned castles where like no one really knows who owns it, and it's just fucking there, and kids break in and graffiti because it's like no one's doing anything?
Kind of, yeah. There are some like that. There's some like more like fortresses and ruins. Like in my hometown, there's one that's like old. This from the year 1200. Like it's like 800 years old, and it's just like now at this point it's just like ruins, and there's a restaurant on top, but it's pretty abandoned-ish. But still tourists go there. It's kept up, so it's like there's still like special to a point, but not to the degree as in America. For me, it's almost like when I came here, I have this joke where I'm like, you guys are, you know, you go to Europe, you see our castles, you're like, oh my God, this is such a gorgeous castle. It's so much European culture. I feel the same way at Denny's. Like for me, that is American culture, you know? I go in, when I first saw a diner, I was like, oh, we don't have this. It's like the diner, the booth. Oh, so beautiful, you know? Like that's kind of like how we relate to it because it's so foreign to us in Europe. Yeah. It's like your diners.
Well, also, like, you know, because like y'all have been doing your thing in Europe for so long. It's like for us, like I see a gravestone from 1812. I go like, oh my God, it's so old. Yeah. This is so cool. Yeah. But then when I've gone to Europe, I'm like walked into a castle, and I go like, it's just all another level. Yeah. So, but I just never heard someone say, yeah, I'm getting married at a castle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be
cool.
You
know, my wife loves it, and the family's it's more for the American people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're going to love it.
Mario, this has been fantastic. You know, thank you for opening up. And,
of course, yeah.
Thanks for chatting. This was great.
Yeah.
You do a podcast yourself called Uncensored.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people what that's about?
Sure, yeah. It's my podcast. I interview people all. I used to start with male models, but it's just, you know, talking more raw way because I on YouTube on my main channel everything is so censored and I have to get monetized on that channel. It's uncensored. It's just raw.
Yeah.
You know?
And is this what you thought how a Man Whore podcast was going to go?
You know what? It's interesting. It got a lot deeper, and I love it. You know what I mean? It's like I came for the man whore, I stayed for the trauma. It was great.
Minimal orgy. Zero
orgy.
Minimal orgy talk.
Minimal orgy talk.
A little bit of a predatory orgies in the Hamptons, but other than that,
yeah. I mean, again, I have some orgy stories, but not, yeah. I was at an orgy, at a gay orgy.
Okay.
Accidentally.
Yeah. You held back. You didn't.
I held back. I don't know when to throw that in. You talk to me about how do you raise your kids. By the way, I went to a gay orgy accidentally.
Fair. but so it tends to go a little deeper. And,
I love it.
So I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. Mario, where can people go to find you, follow you, and check out the rest of your work?
It's at Mario Adrion on Instagram. It's Mario and then Adrion. Instagram, my tour dates are also on there, MarioAdrion.com. Doing a full US tour right now. Instagram is the best place, I think. Okay. It's the most
You're
nuanced.
Not a TikTok man?
TikTok my TikTok got banned because I was wearing a Speedo on American Idol.
How dare you?
Yeah, because of sexual content. Yeah, but
but
I have a new TikTok.
I hope the show goes well tonight.
Yeah,
but like I'm not just saying that. I really hope the show goes well tonight, man.
Thank you.
And if it doesn't, I hope she holds you really nicely.
That's right. That's
tonight,
right. That's right.
This was pleasant. This was very.
Thank you so
man.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming.
Why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody?
Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye, everybody. Yeah.
Hang tight, you know the drill. Stick around, you're going to hear even more of me and Mario Adrion. There's a teaser for the bonus. Yes, coming up in just a moment. Stay right there. The best place to discuss this week's show is in the episode discussion channel in the Champagne Room, our super free, super fun, super sex positive Discord server. Make a friend today. Introduce yourself to everybody at manwhorepod.com/Discord. You can also send me an email with your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your feedback written on your boobies to manwhorepod@gmail.com. Again, the Naked Comedy Show, it's tomorrow, everybody. It's today if you're listening to it late. Use the code NOFEES for $5 off. Can't make it yourself? Send the link to a friend in New York. Nobody ever knows what to do going out. They're like, oh, what do we do this weekend? Oh, I don't have any plan. I don't really know what to do. I want to go out, but I don't know where to go. Do them a favor. Send them a link to the Naked Comedy Show. Give them somewhere to go. New behind-the-scenes feature coming to the Patreon. I'll do it at the end of this month. And if y'all like it, I will do it again next month and the month after that. But I'll start posting a video each month telling you how I felt the recordings went. I'll let you know what went down off microphone. Who did I have some tension with? Who did I think was flirting with me on mic? What got cut out of the show? For all my members, become one today at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Sign up for an annual membership. You can still get the maximum discount through the end of the month. Okay, everybody, I got therapy. I got to go. Stay cool out there and stay slutty.
I think there's so much value in masculinity. I just listened to a 3-hour Andrew Tate video.
Why?
Because I was like, I think it's important to like hear, because there's some valuable things to be said. I think there's like this black or white thing in America where like either you have to be hyper masculine or you have to be like this, like super, like very vulnerable all the time. I think there's like a middle ground. There's a case for masculinity. And I think sometimes it's like, I don't know, I keep going back and forth with it because I'm all for vulnerability, but I'm also for a bit more like independence. And that's one thing I notice in Europeans. We are much more independent. We are more, in that way, a little bit more masculine in our, going through tough times. Like, I don't want to sound like I had the hardest childhood, but like, my mom put me to work, physically. I had to like chop wood, labor. I'm not kidding. But that kind of stuff, I feel like kids now, Gen Z, they're so depressed. Many reasons, right? Technology, obviously, cell phones, internet, social media, huge. I mean, that impacts mental health like to a crazy degree. But I also think that their lives are too easy sometimes. I think you have to be sometimes go through tough things, like be a man in some regards, you know what I mean? Do physically demanding things. I think that's something I definitely want to kind of have a blend between all the openness and vulnerability emotionally, but then also like being a leader in some ways, you know what I mean? Because there is some time and place to also suppress your emotions and move forward and be that leader. I think in a relationship dynamic, you need one that's more masculine and one more feminine. Whether that's a man or a woman doesn't matter.
Sure.
I think it's about not masculine versus feminine. It's like masculine and femininity within you. You know what I mean? It's not about men versus women. It's like, there's this beautiful quote. I think Justin Baldoni said that in a TED Talk. He talks a lot about masculinity and about toxic masculinity and all that. But he said like, masculine and feminine is like a bird that has two wings. One is masculine and femininity, and the bird can only fly when both are balanced. And I think that's what it is. Because I think right now, with men sometimes, I can see it a little bit because it swings so far where like masculinity is also becoming devalued and almost like you're becoming scrutinized for it. But you need both. You need to have a healthy balance between both. And that's what I would like to instill in my children too.